So good morning, everybody. My name is Rick Fuller. I'm with Tableau. I'm joined by Darren McGurran from Tableau. I'm an account manager with Tableau, and Darren's a solution consultant, and we'll be here all day. We decided to break this segment into sort of three parts, and the first part will be some basic enablement. We'll go into Tableau Desktop, open it up, connect to some data, build some things, and hopefully give you enough information to get you started and overcome a couple of the initial steps to simply getting into visualization and also give you some direction as to just general functionality if you haven't seen the technology. The second part, we will focus a bit on enablement. There is a ton of materials, tutorials, information available at our website. The hyperlink to that is up here on the wall, tableau.com/learn/training. So we'll just take a moment and walk through that so you know what you can get to. And then the last part, which we hope you find really interesting, is something called Tableau Public. We provide a platform free of charge to people all over the world who wish to create visualizations, publish them, and share them online or embed them in their public websites. And that content resides on a site called Tableau Public. It's great, people love it, but I think for the purposes of this discussion, this session, and this whole event, I would say check it out because there's great visualizations up there. There are great ideas, there's terrific inspiration. They're not all municipal, many of them are sports related, things like that. And you can pull them down, and if you see an idea and you say, boy, I like that visualization, I would like to replicate that for this exercise. We'll show you how you can pull that down and you can see how it was built. And I hope over the course of this exercise you'll find that to be a great resource for ideas and things like that. So those are the three parts, and with that, I will turn it over to Darren. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So we're going to start off with Tableau Desktop. So just here, we're just looking at a couple of things on Tableau Public. And we'll come back to this at the end, as Rick said. So Tableau Desktop is the tool that can be used to author the content, put it together, explore the data, visualize the data, and then also potentially save it out to Tableau Public for other people to see and kind of understand what you've been doing. When we want to connect to data, we're going to talk a little bit about connecting to data, what we see from a data point of view, putting together a couple of different visualizations, different ways of looking at it, kind of categorically, some of it graphically with maps and things like that, and then we put it all together in a dashboard and how it all interact together, and then we're going to publish it out to public as part of the process. So as we start off, the first thing we want to do, I'm just going to do a new one here, just so we start from scratch. We're going to connect to data, and this is the first screen you see. You connect to data, and this is a book. Something you can use against your local data, as well as if you got stuff in SQL, any kind of data source out there you can use. But in this case here, we're going to go and connect to Excel. So I've got my Excel data here, and here's some of the different data files and different sources. And the one I'm going to choose here is the parking tickets one. I'm just going to open it up. And what now has happened is we've opened up and we actually see that there's actually two sheets in here. We got our parking tickets one, and I'm going to do the parking status one. I'll come back to this in a little while. I actually added this into it to enrich the data, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but I'm just going to join on date here. Oh, sorry. Parking status. And we're going to join on date here. And we see all the data down here about the parking data, kind of in your typical Excel-like format. When we go here and go to worksheet, we're breaking it up a little bit, and what you're seeing is the kind of categorical data, the license plate type, the location of the ticket location, the comment information. This is going to be a lot of the kind of descriptive or categorical data around what you see. In all these different data sets, there's going to be information about location. There's going to be information potentially about the type of activity that's in it from the city's point of view. And then down here, there's going to be information about the actual kind of categorical information. This is going to be a fine amount, and there's going to be the number of records that are available right here. We also have in here, we're kind of making, when we pull in the data, we look at it and say, oh, these are numeric. You know, some of this stuff may not be numeric, and you may find that, hey, you know what, this is not a number, like it's a code. In this case here, it's a vehicle code. We can just drag it up here, just drop it up here now, and it's now available for us to use up there. And you can play around with the data like that. But really, you're not affecting the data in the back end. You're not changing the Excel file at all. So this was very easy for you to work with. So when we go and look at this now, and we drop it out here, let's say, for example, the fine amount, we can see by double-clicking that there's $458,000 in fines and parking fines put together. If we want to, from looking at it, we can actually change a little on the format side so that actually we get some dollars and different, some currency. So now you've got, adding the dollar information, different things like that you can do with it. But you can see here we've broken this out, and maybe what we want to do with this is kind of break out some information about the actual state itself, where the license states come from. A lot of them came from Massachusetts. This is kind of bar graph looking at, maybe I want to look at this from a little differently. I want to look at it on a map. I'm just going to pull this off. You'll see this little guy is telling me that this is a string. I'm actually going to convert this over to a geographic item called a state. We'll a lot of times pull this in automatically if you see state, because this said ST. We didn't know whether you meant street or what exactly it was. But you can easily go and take this data and make this into a state now. So if we go and you drop this out here now, we're now going to see this information beginning to show up on a map automatically. And as we see this information show up on a map, we can actually look and see, well, where are the license states? So the car plates came from all these different states. We're going to drag the number of records onto color here. And now we're beginning to see visually where some of the people are coming from. We're looking at, we didn't have anyone in this period from West Virginia, Kansas, Iowa. All these other states are represented in the, actually a week's worth of data here of parking fines, so quite a diverse area. You may also look at this and go from a color point of view. I'm not really, a big fan of the green, so maybe I want to change it over to something else like a blue. And there's also some good reasons to do that. 10% of the population are red-green colorblind. So when you're actually putting data, when you're putting visualizations together, it's always something to bear in mind, your audience and who's going to look at it. And someone who's, when you look at a green like that and you've got red-green color blindness, it's all going to look brown. You're not going to see a lot coming out of it. So blue and orange, they're actually good colors to use. So now we have this, showing up the states, and we can actually begin to put a little bit more information. Let's go and put the fine amount on there. So we can see, oh, right, now we're beginning to see where all the different states the fines are coming from. Maybe we want to put the number of records out there. So we can actually see how many different parking fines. So we can see 14 parking fines came from California. And indeed, if we wanted to go a little bit further, we can actually go and edit this. And in the tooltip, there's, we can actually edit the label. So we've got like fine amount here. We'll just go and actually edit the label, put this in here, into the label. And we'll just put some of fine amount in there. And you can go and edit this to make it a little, make it more, easy for people to understand. You may notice that I've got quite a big overhang for Massachusetts, as you'd expect, and you may see that a lot in your data, being that we're going to see a lot of Boston data. So what you can do easily with this is I can just come along and exclude this guy. And now I'm beginning to see something a little bit more interesting. Now I see New Hampshire is showing up here because the overhang of Massachusetts is kind of taken out of the picture. I can now see, that New York, Connecticut, New Hampshire really begin to show up. And don't worry if you've actually gone and said, oh, I did that, didn't mean to do it. There's a nice little back button that I can just go back very easily. And I can go many levels back if I wanted to very quickly get to it.
Darren, I want to add a comment on that. If you go forward one, where you'll notice when Darren pulled that out by excluding it in the view, what it actually did mechanically on Tableau was it moved it into the filter shelf. So when you set up filters to filter down your views, you may achieve the same thing by dragging that into the filter shelf and selecting it. But if you do it in the view, it'll automatically do that, just so you know what's happening and you're not getting kind of concerned that you don't know what happened. Just look on the filter shelf if you do things like that. Tableau is automatically placing a filter there based on what you did.
Yes, so yeah, this is an example of filtering, as Rick was saying, and indeed, you may want to go more explicit with this from a filtering point of view yourself. So we've got different things in here like the vehicle make. We can actually, there's a lot on this, but we can actually do a quick filter on this, and you can see here Acuras, Audis. So if you wanted to just basically look at this a little bit differently, maybe the question I want to ask is, how many Audi drivers are getting parking tickets? I'm now seeing many Audi drivers in the state very quickly and very easily have been getting parking tickets. So you can use that to do analysis. And there's a number of things you can do with this, with the filters. There's certain things around sets. You can create sets of data around like Audi drivers, four-wheel drive. Yes, sir. Yeah, so I was actually going to, the next thing I was going to do is, this is kind of at the state level, as Ralph mentioned there's actually Latin long here, and that's actually specifically down to the city level. So I'm going to do another visualization, which you're going to see the actual locations of the individual parking events. So I'm going to move on now onto that here. So we've got a nice little map showing up of where our kind of fines are coming from. And we'll just kind of call it our state map. And we're going to look here, and I've got lat here and long kind of come in as a number, I think because of just some of the formatting. I can actually change this again over to longitude. And one of the things I can do with this is I actually hold down both of these, hold down the control key, I can actually highlight both of these, and over here I've got something called show me. And what show me is actually kind of says, given what you're looking to do, what kind of visualizations make sense? And one of them, you'll see based on lat and long, I think it's coming through, it's a little bit dark, but the ones that are kind of got some color associated with them are the ones that are going to work for this data. So for example, a bar chart would work for this data. But one of the things that would work for it here is a map. So if I look at this now, because we're looking at city information, we're looking at, it actually gets the average lat and long for every event, and not surprisingly, it's right in the middle of Boston. But now if I take this information and I begin to put something like route on here, now we're drilling down to the actual route information. And if I look at this, when you look at the data, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about here, in the actual data set itself, the routes like 810, these are all city designations of route. You've got the street name on here too. So what we can do with this is we can actually construct a hierarchy with this data. So I can actually take the street name and put under route. And very easily, I could have just easily dropped it on there, but I can drill down specifically to the street name, and we'll drill down in a moment to the actual street number. So if I actually put the actual location, which is the physical location, I put this on here, I can actually drill down to each individual thing. So one thing you'll notice here is like, ooh, got a lot of concentration of data here. So what I may want to do with this is I may want to look at the color a little bit and change the transparency level. It's a nice tip to use, to go maybe bring it down to about a 50% transparency. Maybe look, yeah, and then I may want to put a little border around stuff. So now I'm beginning to kind of be able to see stuff a little bit more, but I'm going to use something else. I'm going to use size to actually begin to see about where some of this is happening. So maybe I want to look at the number of records and put that onto size. And what we're going to do is now we're beginning to see a concentration of where the fines are occurring. And you can see that there's a small amount of fines going on down here, kind of Mattapan area. You can see the city is getting a lot, South Boston's got some. A lot right here, so I don't know if anyone's got their cars on the street. You may want to check them, but you can actually see the number of records that actually occur in this area. The other thing you can do with this is, because we actually had that route information there, and now we've kind of lost it because we've actually drilled down, we can also take this route information again, and I can just bring it out here onto color. and you can actually begin to see all the different routes. And now on the map itself, you can see the different routes in the different areas in different colors as you look at this data. The other thing you can do with this is I can actually go and, if I actually did want to see what's going on down here, I can drill right into it now, and I can see, you know, okay, where these are occurring in the city, and I could actually go down further and, you know, look at it basically down at the city level, you know, the individual parking locations.
Yeah, can you just go into so they know how to get maybe different views on the map as well, just so they know they can control the background?
Oh, you know, you mean the map background here?
Yeah.
So yeah, so under map options here, there's actually some layers that you can add, and this can kind of, they're backgrounds, but they're enrichment of the data. So you can actually look at, you know, streets and highways. It can be added on here. There we go.
Are those layers integrated in the software, or are those layers that you have to get someone else to bring in like you would in GIS?
These layers are integrated to the software. You can't bring in quite as many layers as you can with Esri, but we have a number that are already there. So there'll be some use cases where this might help somewhere. If you want to layer in significant additional layers, that's where something like Esri is going to work really well.
Yeah, and the other thing, just again, depending on what you want to do, and this is not necessarily going to be applicable. You can see now, we can see exactly where the streets are. This is kind of explicitly what you want to show as an option. There's also data layers, depending on the source, where you may have socioeconomic data that could be available. So there's lots of different things like that in layers that you could actually add on there that shows income levels and things like that, potentially as layers that may be available for the data set too. So, you know, now we have, you know, a nice little visualization. You can see exactly where some of the finds are occurring. We may want to look at the find. Okay, so yeah, we got. I'm going to do two more things two more visualizations. We have finds here. So if I actually go and I can go and put all the finds out here and put them in a continuous. So if I actually took something like we'll just take was it vehicle state? No, yeah, we'll take vehicle state, drop it out there, and we did find amount before. Our vehicle, oh, it's the type of vehicle. Sorry, we'll put this out right. Do that. You can see it's showing the sum of all the fines there are for these different types, and like 4 doors are actually getting a lot of fines. I may not want to look at this a little bit. I may want to look at the fines in buckets. So what I can do in kind of a histogram is if I go back here, I can take my fines and I can bin them. And I'm going to create basically kind of $20 bins because I know it's numeric. So it's just saying the size of the bin. So now I've got this fine bin here, and I can actually bring this out. And then if I come along and add my number of records here, and I just swap it around a little bit, now you can actually see in the various bins where the actual fines and the preponderance of fines are between the $20 and $40. There's lots of information in there about it. The other thing you can do with this is we have this license state. We can create a calculated field, and there's lots of, like in Excel, there's lots of calculations you can create. You can get very, very complicated, do line causes, all this kind of stuff. But there's a lot of this. I've actually, you know, as kind of chefs do, I've prepared one earlier. But basically, it's all I'm doing with this is I'm actually taking the states and grouping them up a little bit. So in the editor itself, it tells you whether it's valid. This is going to say what actual state the driver's from. And I've actually said everyone in Massachusetts is Massachusetts, everyone is not in Massachusetts is New England. So I'm going to put that onto color. And now what you're seeing is here's the Massachusetts people, here's the other New Englanders, and here's people from outside of New England. So again, you're enriching the data just by doing a couple of calculations on it. And obviously you can take this and do something very easily by adding on here onto labels. You can actually get the fines for each group, the total amount, and begin to look at it that way. One other final thing is we have a date here. So we treat dates couple of different ways. Dates can be buckets. You can look at every Monday. Maybe you want it down the road with the parking fines. How do we compare Monday to Monday? How do we compare Tuesdays or weekends to weekdays? So you can look at dates in kind of buckets, or you can actually look at dates continuously, and that's over time. And because I know this data actually has got a very short gap, I actually have in here the fines coming across all these days, and I can see a trend. So the parking fines, the number of records issued, going up here, and I can see, wow, we kind of dropped off there. I wonder what was going on. I kind of have an idea. So one of the things I did earlier on was that join. So I'm actually going to take the date here. I'm going to add it out here, and I'm actually going to do something similar again and make this a date. And this is kind of a parking ban piece of data. This was not part of it. I actually went online and just found this out. So now I've got two charts side by side. What I'm going to do with this guy though is I'm not going to do it as a line. I'm actually going to do something called shapes. So I'm going to do it as a shape file, and I'm going to take my parking ban true or false and put it onto onto my shape. So you'll see I've got false and true, which is kind of nice, and this is great. And I can turn around and I can what I can do with this is called dual axis, so I can actually overlay them on top of each other. But within my shape file, I've got a little handy thing, all these different shapes, and one of them is weather. So I can actually say, well, let's go make this sunny, even though it probably wasn't, but we probably have a good idea what was happening this day. So we can apply this to both of them, and then as we go on size, now we have actually, what was going on. I got the sunshine showing up here and the snow. You can look at the shape files, enrich the data, do a lot of things like that with it, to add something to it from that end. If I want to put this together, here's my state map.
So I want to slow you down for 1 second there. So the interaction here is each one of these sheets you can think of like a sheet in Excel. You're creating a visualization, you're creating you're doing the design. When you click here, that's when you click, actually I can't see it so good.
Yeah, right here.
This is the sheet, and this one right here that he created is a dashboard, so the interaction changes a little. Now I have a menu of sheets. So on the Sheets menu, I have a menu of data. On the dashboard menu, I have a menu of sheets. So just note there's, in this case, two different types of tabs you create.
So on this here, now I've got a couple of different things showing up. I can actually relate these together. So I remember our little Audi one, we can actually come along here and apply this to every worksheet. So now we can actually look at our Audi drivers, not just where they came from, also where they parked and how many fines they actually contributed. So very quickly you can look at that. Or I can go down another path with this and I can say, you know what, this map is lovely. Let's just use it as a filter. And let's look at these Florida people. They probably should have been gone already, but they were here and they gave a little bit of information to a little bit of fines.
They're as green as Massachusetts people.
So you can actually see how that all plays together. So we've got a nice little dashboard put together, and I can say, we're not to, I could just call it we're not to park. And I've got this in my, I'll just put it on my desktop right now, save it out, just for me to go back into it again. But one of the things I may want to do from server, you'll see I've got this option called Tableau Public, and I can save to web. So now I'm going to go out and I've got my own login here. And you can just go online and get yourself a free log on to Tableau Public, and then you can publish this out. And it's going, the data, by the way, it's local here because Excel. In order to publish it out, it says I need it in a little kind of package size, so it's actually, it's called an extract. So we just click a little button to extract the data. It's going to create an in-memory version of the data and send it on with the whole thing. So now when I go and publish, save to web, now it's publishing this out, telling me all the stuff it's going to publish, and it's going to send it up to the website. I don't have to do anything, and then I'll be able to go in. I'm going to have my own world on here, and as this is going up, I'll kind of go over to public, And this is Tableau Public, and in a moment my piece will show up. As Rick said, there's lots of different things up there. When you go up to Public, I actually have a link to it here. There's an actual gallery in here of all, this is mine coming up here now, but there's a gallery, there's our map, here's all our Audi drivers, here's all the stuff we looked at before on Public. The same kind of interaction is available. But in Public, you have here all the different, there's real estate information. So there's actually some people have done the heat index with Zillow data. You've got social media, sports, travel, health, government data. So some great ideas up here. There's lots of different things about diabetes, there's forest fires. There's also for everyone probably in this room is interested in some interesting sports stuff. So you've got stuff in here about how did this was looking at the odds of you making the actual Super Bowl. So the pitches you can kind of see, by the third quarter, the odds of making the Super Bowl in the championship game were pretty high. But as everyone remembers in the Seahawks game, those odds were getting pretty low before they went into the overtime with the Packers. And as you go on each one of these, it'll actually click and play a video. This is another example of just someone who's done some nice, cool stuff. So they've actually gone and taken some graphics and used and enriched the data a little bit with some graphics to do some stuff. It's pretty nice. This one here is we really like this one because it's actually a really good type of visualization. The use of gray is saying there's a lot of good data here, but the reds are what I care about. It's kind of a bit of a morbid thing. It's all about the actual deaths and incident in accidents across the U.S. Things that kind of jumps out here is, January 1st is a bad time to be on the road, especially late at night. Around 4th of July is not really good either. So you can actually see kind of the fatalities that occurred. So this is just a good example of good visualization because the information is very quickly visible. If you look at this and within 5 seconds, you're like, yep, I get it.
I was going to say, I'm going to accentuate that a little bit. This is a good example, again, because they know what story they're trying to tell, and it's really easy to create data that makes it in colors and shapes that are very, very hard to discern what you're trying to tell. This just happens to be a really great example of the use of annotation. It talks actually about the overall reduction in fatalities, but then ties in through annotation certain legislative events that are likely to actually then cause. A graph doesn't mean a heck of a lot without that detail. You're left wondering, I wonder what's going on, I wonder if my data is correct. So, and again, obviously, it would have been easy to choose shades of red here, but really, the shades of red really tell the story when we don't care about lighter red, we really just care about dark red, and the rest is generally generally not that important. So, just a good example, really good use of visualization techniques to tell a story in a glance. So.
And this one here, this is an example of something else called story points, and this is something that you can actually create too. Yeah, and what this is actually, it's got some visualizations on here, but you actually explicitly, this is kind of giving your color commentary on the data. You can actually go through it line by line, bit by bit, and actually build a story, explain stuff in here. So again, with some of the data you have there, you may want to actually take this and build a story around the Waze data. Maybe you want to build a data around the parking data, all the different kind of things you can do this with it. You can even look, and we didn't really get to it from our data set, you can do scatter plots, you can do a lot of different things. So if you look at correlations between events, you can easily do that. Just to emphasize.
Can you go to desktop for 1 second?
Sure.
Just toggle back real quick. So this was actually a story. See up on the menu, there's file, data, worksheet, story. If you choose to want to put together a narrative where the visualizations operate like a presentation and you annotate and you tell a story, you can create dashboards, that's fine, but you also can go up and create something called story, and then you'll get another option. So when you decide to drag in those individual sheets, rather than dragging them into a dashboard, you'll drag them in essence, like slides in a story, and you'll be able to relate it. So that's the third option, or second option, for what you can do with your sheets. You can create a story, and that's where you'll find that functionality, okay?
Yeah.
Great. We'll be outside. You can ask us. We're going to be here.
So two things, or actually three things, but they're quick. One is on public, download any of these. You can take them apart. You can actually figure out what's in them and kind of say, oh, that was kind of cool. How did you do it? So the download option, you can just take it down. With the stuff you do create, please put it up there because people love seeing this stuff. There's a lot of great stuff out there, and contributing to it, it kind of enriches everybody. A couple of things. The public, we said here, was the actual site itself. It's tableau.com public gallery, or public over there. You'll see the link up on the board. And then the other thing is we actually have a lot of free online training. So there's videos, there's YouTube clips, there's a whole lot of stuff actually step by step and how to do stuff. So if you go there, you'll actually find a lot of different ways of, if you kind of say, I'd like to do that, how does someone do that? You can actually see that on these videos.
Yeah, they're broken down, so they're all designed to be, somewhere between 5 minutes and about 15 minutes on specific topics. So if you've got some questions, just go check out the tutorials and check out the community. If you get stuck, the community is really, really active. If you got up there and said, I'm trying to create a calculation to do X, Y, or Z, chances are pretty good somebody is actually going to jump on and actually build a workbook for you. So, we're here, but over the course of the next few weeks, there's a ton of people and resources who, I don't know what else they do with their time, but they answer a lot of questions from folks with questions. And so feel free to tap into that community.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the other thing is that at some point, if you're interested, there's a Boston Tableau user group. And if you go on our website, you can actually find out about that too. And it's local. It has meetings about once a month that you can also attend. And it's a good community. Just here, a lot of times they're over in Cambridge, in Kendall Square. But that's a good community also. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for listening to me on a Saturday morning and being attentive before lunch. And we're right on target. We'll give you 2 minutes to spare. Get out for lunch. So thank you.